this one we have, it's literally just some guy, calling in from Ireland. You are live on Truth Wanted. Welcome to the show. An excellent choice of name. Hello, just some guy. You are live on Truth Wanted. Can you hear us?
That doesn't make
Just some guy.
I know that it says that I want to debate about evolution, but I just want to quickly make a few points about how there's no good and evil under atheism.
Nope, I'm sorry, but we only allow whatever you've pre-screened with our call screener to make sure it's appropriate for the show. So if you do have another topic that you're interested in, I'm happy to talk to you about it, but we just have to call again at a different time, and then we can talk about it. Is that okay?
Okay. Why do you think evolution disproves God?
Well, that's an interesting statement because I don't think evolution necessarily disproves God at all, actually. I'll speak to this first and I'll let Michael chime in. But basically, it really depends on what kind of God you're talking about. When I was a Christian, I believed in evolution. I actually had no problems with it. It actually wasn't until later in my Christianity when I did have problems with placing it all together, right? Because I do think if you take fundamentalist Christianity into account, evolution does seem like a harder puzzle piece to fit, right? But there's millions of Christians that definitely believe in evolution. I don't think that in itself necessarily stops you from believing in God. I think it does stop you from believing in the traditional Christian narrative, though. You really can't believe in Christianity and believe, for example, that there was an Adam on Earth 6,000 years ago, and also evolution as we understand it is also a thing, right? Like that doesn't seem to jive with a lot of what we know about science. But that's my take on it. Michael, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, same. I mean, it's interchangeable with Christians. Some Christians believe it, and you can make the Bible fit to a lot of different things. And I've seen Christians make Genesis fit to evolution, even though Genesis is contradictory and rubbish. But they can do it. So, for me, that is not one of my reasons for non-belief. Yes, I feel that evolution is the way things happened. I don't feel it was God breathing things into existence, but that is not one of my main reasons for my disbelief. So that not really hand in hand there.
Okay, but under evolution, don't we all have one common ancestor?
Depends on what you mean by one common ancestor, because
is it one dude, one single-celled organism, or what are you saying?
Well, I think I'm explaining my point very poorly. Sorry, give me a second. I mean, like, don't we all have one common ancestor if you trace it all the way back?
Well, it's actually not. I mean, depends on how you're asking that question, because in anthropology, it's not super clear humans' whole lineage yet. We are still learning things about our own lineage all the time. If you look at what is the most recent date for what we consider Homo sapiens to have occurred, that date has been changing like every decade since we've been making it, right? Now we're back to about 200,000 years or so in some circumstances. But again, it also depends, because we have debates about whether other species, right, were intermixed with ours in some ways. And then there's also a problem of classification, right? We can only classify with the fossils that we find, what our time period is in our existence. And again, that gets pushed back. And especially where we're finding other kinds of species of Homo, right, in that genus all the time. Pretty much every year we're finding new ones in different locations in the world. So do we come from one place? Not really. Like human beings kind of came from different places. I mean, if you mean, do we all come from Africa and there are some tribes there? Like, yeah, in some sense. But the question's, it's a bit more complicated, really. But hopefully that makes sense to you.
Well, isn't the evidence for evolution kind of poor? Because I heard it can all fit in the back of the average truck.
It's really not.
Bones we found of our ancestors.
I'm not sure where you heard that from, but we have so much evidence for evolution. It's probably one of the basis and the foundation of pretty much everything that's done in biology today. Like most of what biology is in the work that's done today is based on not only the assumption that evolution works, but is explained through the mechanics that evolution describes. Really, there's people doing lab work every single day that involves the principles that are described in evolution. One of our hosts, Forrest Valkai, is a biologist and is doing that work. And if you talk to biologists and ask them a question about what evidence is there, I'm sure they'd be happy to send you whatever thesis they're working on or lab work that they're doing, because it's out there all the time. But yeah, Michael, did you want to add to that?
That was beautiful, man. I loved it. No, I mean, everything we find nowadays, every new discovery seems to fit into that model. So, I mean, why change it? And if it did change, science would change with the facts. And that's the difference between science and religion.
But if everything came across randomly and it was just an explosion, evolution did happen, then everything just happened like accidentally. How do you know that knowledge is actually possible?
Well, that's an interesting question. So this argument is a very specific argument. What is the name of this? It's the evolutionary debunking argument. Really, this is applied to morality, because we have this idea of, okay, well, if we're all coming from evolutionary processes, what does it mean to have objective morality? But it can also be applied to epistemology, as you're describing, which is the study of knowledge. Okay, so how can we know that things exist, or how can we have an idea that we can know true things if we're programmed through evolution? Because as you pointed out, right, if our brains are supposed to just respond to shaking in tall grass and say there's a lion in there, we don't actually know if there's a lion in there. That's just kind of our response to our environment, right? And so to answer this, I would really say our knowledge is mostly a practical construct, if that makes sense. I don't know if we have an objective, true understanding of what reality is. And I'm not even sure if that even exists, but we definitely don't have like omniscient knowledge, right? We don't have perfect knowledge of things. So in that sense, no, we definitely don't. But we can make predictions. We can observe things and make predictions based on the evidence that we have from that phenomenon. We're using telecommunications software right now that's based on very legitimate computer science and electronic principles that we hope are going to be working in the next few minutes so that we can continue this conversation, right? That's prediction we can make, and we build our hardware around that. And in some sense, we build our knowledge around that as well. But that's really all we can say about knowledge if we come from an evolutionary worldview, right? If we don't have a creator that gives us that divine, impartation of knowledge, if that makes sense.
Do you believe in objective morality or no?
I don't personally. Michael, do you?
Yeah, I'm at the I don't think there is. Yeah. That's where I'm at currently. I could be changed. I've changed my mind. I mean, give me some facts. Give me some convincing things. Yeah, 100%. I'm always willing to change my mind. But right now, yeah.
Well, the argument is like presupposition. I can't pronounce anything. I mean, like, you always assume things even though there's no evidence, especially when it comes to morality, because we always like feel bad when we hit someone, but there's nothing actually saying that's wrong.
There's no God saying that's wrong for sure. That's why I don't believe morality is objective, right? If I did believe morality was objective, I would have a problem. But if anything, that supports morality not being objective.
Well, what I mean is, like, if you could kill someone and that would somehow benefit you, like if someone had money with them and you killed them for the money, what would be wrong with that?
Are they dead?
I think personally, right, morality is a human construct, and we base that construct because we have values. So we value money, many of us do, but we also value human lives. We also value dignity. We also value status within our society. And we know that being a murderer is not great for your social status. And being a murderer also means that a human life is taken away, more importantly, in my opinion.
More importantly.
But, there's a lot of different reasons that come to us. Are any of these reasons objective? No, they're completely based on human desires, which is why I don't believe morality is objective.
Yep.
Do you believe racism is bad?
Yes. I do. I'm not sure where this is going.
Yeah,
but,
I'm curious.
You know?
No, I'm not racist. I mean, like, why? Because there's no objective morality. It's all subjective. Under atheism,
Exactly.
There's no difference between Jesus and Hitler, and there's no difference between, like, Muhammad and Mother Teresa.
I think this is something
we can't value human life because we're atheists.
No, I'm not saying I don't value your life because you're atheist. I'm not saying that.
No, human life, not just my own, but Dan's, yours, everybody else's. Are you saying that we can't value life because we're atheists?
No, I'm saying there's no reason to value life if you're an atheist.
There's no reason for a lot of things, but, you know, I'd like to give reason to my life, and that is one of the reasons I have given. You know, the human life is important.
Yeah, I have a reason.
But that's
I like other people. I don't want my friends who are minorities to get hurt or be harmed. That's a reason, right?
Good reason.
An emotional reason, though.
It is.
What's wrong with that?
But it's a reason, right? That's different from the claim saying we don't have reasons.
So there's nothing actually saying murder's bad, though.
I'm saying murder is bad. Like people are saying, but that's the problem, right? It's always going to come down to people. At the end of the day, right? I think morality is going to be up to us in order for us to make those decisions. And we as human beings have to make a decision of whether we're going to choose to follow through with the values that we have or be completely self-centered. I don't think a God is going to punish us at the end of the day either way. If anything, I think that makes our decisions more impactful because I have to deal with the reality of the situation given and not have to focus on an afterlife that may or may not come to me in some shape or form.
Or an invisible angry guy. None of that.
Slavery used to be legal, right? But I assume you disagree with that.
Slavery is still legal in many places, but yes, I do think the practice of slavery is wrong.
Yes.
Why though? There's nothing actually saying it's wrong. It's all.
I'm saying it's wrong though. Just some guy. I'm saying it's wrong.
Yeah, that's our opinion, and we can back it up with facts that it's harmful. So
yeah, and if you value that you want to prevent harm, that will be impactful for you. If you don't though, if you don't care, it's not going to impact you. And that's just the reality of the world. That's hard to deal with, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
You know?
You believe we should not harm anyone?
In general, yeah.
Yeah. Harm is bad.
Well, but what if someone was going to harm someone else? Then would it be okay to take their life?
Say that again. If somebody was going to harm someone else, is it okay to take my own life? What do you mean?
Is it okay to take their life?
Oh, like in an act of self-defense?
No, in an act of defending someone else.
Oh, well, I mean, that is self-defense in some ways. I mean, it's a kind of defense, I suppose. Yeah, that's a tricky question.
Why do you have to kill him though? Why can't you just restrain him or stop him in another way? Like, why is death the automatic?
It's true. If I had the means to not kill somebody in stopping somebody from harming someone, I'm going to choose that, right?
Are you vegan or do you believe it's okay to eat meat?
Ooh, here we go. Here we go.
I am vegan, but you know, not everybody is, unfortunately.
I just talked about this on the show.
I believe.
Yeah.
The reason I believe it's okay to eat meat is because I believe we're made in the image of God and animals aren't.
Okay.
We look like God? How do you know what God looks like?
I think it's more of like a spiritual thing. I'm not trying to argue that. I'm trying to argue that.
So, do you have a cat or a dog? Just some guy?
What?
Do you have a cat or a dog? Or any animal that you call a pet or a friend?
No, I'm pretty.
Have you ever had one?
Do you know somebody with one?
Once, yeah.
Did you used to have a pet or a dog? What did you have?
I had a pet bird, but he only was alive for like 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. So you haven't had any close animals in your life, but maybe you know some friends that probably have pets, right? So let's go with that example. Let's say you have a friend in your life that has pets. Would you be okay if I went to that pet and cooked it for my dinner?
No.
Why?
Because it's not yours. Like, I believe
It's property.
You own the animal.
You have to own it. Okay, what if I take a dog off the street and I cook it?
No.
No, why not? Nobody owns it, right?
Well, you don't know if someone owns it or not.
Okay, what if I know that nobody owns it? What if I find it as a puppy in like a trash yard and I choose to eat it?
Terrible, Dan.
Well, actually, I will be honest about one thing. I personally am not vegan, but there's no real reason not to eat dogs, but I still think it's pretty disgusting.
Yeah, but why?
But why?
Well, I'll be honest, I don't have a reason for that. I just think it's disgusting to eat a dog.
Well, that's kind of the thing, right? I think that personally, as a vegan, the line that we've drawn between dogs and the line that we've drawn between cows is kind of arbitrary. We kind of do it because we like the taste of cows. We're not used to the taste of dogs. And in fact, there are places today that raise dogs for the purposes of eating because that is their culture. But I don't do it. My morality doesn't come from, well, it's owned by a person, so that makes it wrong. My understanding comes from animals have a capacity for suffering, and therefore I respect that by withholding my ability to eat them because I don't have to eat them. In the same analogy that we used before, right? If somebody's going to try to kill somebody else and I don't have to kill that person, I'm not going to. I can live without eating animals, so I try not to, right? So that is the reason why I'm vegan. And notice I can do all of this without a God, just some guy.
There it is.
Right?
It is. Yeah.
No God involved in this process.
There's no.
Do you understand that?
This is wrong, though. It's all just emotional reasons. Have you heard?
It is. Absolutely, because we're emotional beings. Why would you want to make decisions that don't involve your emotions? What if somebody made decisions for you in your life and didn't care about your feelings at all?
Well, I mean, like, shouldn't we look at the facts objectively and not put our feelings into it?
We should look at I agree. And our feelings are a kind of fact in a way, right? We just like in science, we can make predictions about what happens in the world. We can also make predictions about how people will respond to certain things because they have capacities for feelings quite similar to our own. So in that, we can construct systems of law and systems of morality that make the most sense to us because of our feelings. Our feelings are actually a fact in which we can build our morality. Isn't that interesting?
Well, yeah, but it's all just feelings. Like, what if someone didn't feel that way? What if a country didn't feel that way? What if there were a group of people who believed it is okay to blow people up because they said a certain thing or they acted a certain way that you disagreed?
And that's where philosophy begins, is figuring out these kinds of questions. I can't give you a complete rundown of what you should exactly do in each and every one of these kinds of situations because nobody can, right? There's all kinds of people that are trying to figure this out. We live today amongst people who identify as sociopaths, psychopaths, right? Who don't have the same capacity for feelings as us. How do we treat them in our society? They can't treat us the same way because they lack a component that we have. It's a moral dilemma that we have to figure out and decide, do we want to be what I would call the better person or not in a lot of these scenarios? But either way, no matter what we figure out, God is not going to be involved in that process because I really don't think Christianity gives the answers to these kinds of questions. If anything, you're just going to be more confused. Yeah.
Especially the God of the Bible. Especially the God of the Bible.
Especially the God in the Bible.
No, we do not get our morality from that guy.
You're going to be more confused if you follow the God of the Bible.
I think you'd be more confused. Yes.
Absolutely.
That's what you asked. Yeah.
Why?
Because he's contradictory in his words. He says he's loving, but he still tells you to stone people. He drowns the whole world. He's a documented child killer. Pick one.
I've actually been waiting for you to say that. I actually can explain a lot of that because I've looked into a lot of that.
You can explain he's a documented child killer?
What do you mean he's a documented child killer?
There's a book. It's got his name in it. It says he did some things. It's documented. That means he
for example,
killed kids.
the book of Exodus in Moses, when Pharaoh's heart was hardened, 10 plagues were given upon Egypt, one of which was the killing of every firstborn in Egypt.
Yeah.
Do you think there were no kids?
Because the Pharaoh refused to let people who were created in the image of God go.
There could be a because he's still a child killer, right? Still kills children. Whether it was a good reason or not, which by the way, I don't think there is a good reason, it's still a fact he kills children, right?
Well, there's nothing actually wrong with that under atheism. I think it's wrong, but why do you think it's wrong?
Why we established that. We all talked about that.
We talked about this. Go ahead, Mike.
So you find killing children is bad, but not when God does it. Is that where I'm at?
Do you believe it's wrong because society says it's wrong?
I believe it's wrong because I have feelings and emotions and empathy and common sense. So God doesn't seem to have a problem with it.
When God sent plagues upon Egypt, it was because the Pharaoh wouldn't let
He hardened his heart. And in the beginning of the story, he told Moses, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to harden the Pharaoh's heart so I can kill his kid. He says it. He laid it out. Matter of fact, this is all God's plan anyways. So everything that happens is part of his plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he knew this was going to happen. He set this whole thing up. He wanted those children to die. Why? And then we could talk about David and Bathsheba's kid. He caused that kid to suffer for 7 days, and then he killed it. Why? Because the enemies of him showed contempt. Like, wow. So my enemies looked at me wrong or said some bad things about me. Now this kid has to die because David sinned. Like, that's disgusting, man. We can both agree that's disgusting, right?
Wait, what? I haven't read the book of Exodus.
This is 2 Samuel, actually. This is in 2 Samuel. It's the David and Bathsheba story, but then Exodus as well. There's lots of places where he kills kids. You do find it disgusting to kill children, correct?
Well, yeah, but God is the giver of life, so...
Yeah, but why is there a but in there?
In the book of Job, it says... What?
Why is there a but in there? That means it is okay.
Get into that. God is the giver of life, so God is also the taker of life.
It doesn't make it a good thing, though. Just some guy.
Well, but...
What makes that good?
It's all just feelings, though, under atheism.
We're not talking about atheism. I want to know why you believe that to be a good thing.
A perfect example is I'm not a vegan. I eat meat. I eat meat today, actually. But
have you killed any children lately?
I think his name is Mike.
I'm trying to talk about God killing kids, not eating meat at this point. Are you there?
What? Yeah.
There's a little bit of a delay, so just for host and calls, keep in mind there's a delay between talking to each other. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah. So I don't think I'm going to get anywhere with this. I don't.
That's fine. What exactly do you believe, just some guy? Do you think the Christian God? It sounds like you're a Christian. You believe the Christian God exists? Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you have a belief that their Christian God is a real thing?
Why do I believe?
Yeah. Because I don't have that belief. Michael doesn't have that belief. Why do you have that belief? And maybe more importantly, why should people have that belief?
Well, I think it makes you live the best moral life possible.
And is it that reason? Is that why God exists? Because the belief makes you live the most moral life possible? Is that a reason why he exists?
No, if that was the reason God exists, then he'd be dependent on us. But God's not dependent on us.
Okay, yeah. So I'm interested in what's the reason? What reason do you have to believe in God? Or is there a reason?
Yeah, there are.
Okay. What reasons do you have to believe in God?
Well, one of them is, doesn't atheism lead to nihilism when you think about it?
So that doesn't mean that God is real.
Yeah.
Right? I could say, what if, imagine if I was a Muslim, right? Just some guy, or imagine I was someone from a tribal, community. And I said to you that my God of the tribe was real. And you asked me, what reason do I have for that? And my response is, well, if you don't believe it, you just turn to nihilism, right? A lack of belief in my God turns to nihilism. Would you find that convincing?
No.
Why wouldn't you find it convincing?
Sorry, that was one of my reasons, but I shouldn't have started with that. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Let's start with something that's convincing to you.
Would you agree that most of history is based on eyewitness testimony?
Most of history? I mean, it has to be testimony of somebody, I guess, at some point. So
got to see it. Got to witness it. Yes.
Yeah.
Recorded history, anyway.
Bible that's based on eyewitness testimony.
How do you know that?
Not all of it. No.
That's a statement, man.
How
do you know they're not stories? How do you know these are not just old stories being retold in different ways?
There's a lot of proof for the crucifixion.
There's a lot of proof that people died on crosses, but
let's review. I just want to review at this point. So you believe in God because there's proof of the Bible being eyewitness testimony, particularly to the crucifixion.
Is that it?
Yeah, and the resurrection.
And the resurrection.
And the resurrection.
Could it be possible that a God exists and the Bible could also be true in some ways, right? Or maybe could it be possible, rather, that a God doesn't exist and the Bible be true in some ways, right?
Yeah, I guess it's possible.
Right. Here's what I mean by this, if I'm not being clear, because I understand that might be a bit confusing. It could be that the witnesses may have really believed that they witnessed the Holy Spirit or witnessed Jesus or witnessed the resurrection, but they could have been mistaken, right? That's a possibility, right? I'm not saying that's what the case is, but that could be possible, right?
Well, what about John? John spent most of his life killing Christians and murdering them, but then he had a vision from Christ.
So I think you mean the Apostle Paul.
Yeah.
I think you're referring to the Apostle Paul. And again, I could give you examples of people who have lived villainous lives, right? And who have done terrible things and have converted to Islam, right? I'm sure I could find some examples for you in the world. I don't think that'd be too hard. Would that make Islam more convincing to you?
No, because I don't believe in Islam.
Well, I don't believe in Christianity, right? So somebody saying, wow, I was a terrible person, but then I became a Christian, that doesn't make Christianity more real to me either, right?
Yeah, I was a terrible Christian, and now I'm a great atheist. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't think highly of people. I judged them a lot when I was a Christian, and now I'm more of an atheist. And guess what? Humanism comes into play. I start to care more instead of just some eternal soul trying to save, the actual person instead of their invisible soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big difference.
Did you say you think atheism is immoral? Is that what you said?
No, I said I believe Islam is immoral.
You believe Islam is immoral. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? Sorry.
Oh, no. I'm definitely going to be kicked off the internet for this.
Why do you think Islam is immoral?
Because you can church this up if you want. Muhammad, when he was 57, married 9-year-old Aisha.
Okay.
God slaughtered children. Yeah. So they're both bad.
Yeah.
Congrats.
We can there are several stories in the Bible of men having sex with underage people. Muhammad would not be the first to do that.
What about Lot and his daughters?
Yeah.
Yeesh. He's a righteous man according to God.
Just because the Bible says something doesn't mean it supports it.
Okay. But it does kind of, because it does say that Lot was a righteous man, right?
Kind of.
It doesn't actually condone that in any way.
It doesn't say, hey, you shouldn't have done that with his daughters. No, it says, hey, he was a great guy. Yeah, so there's an issue there.
Wait, where is this? Where is this in the Bible?
This is in the book of Genesis.
19, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head, but somewhere around that area.
That's some research for a later time, but I encourage you to read that story, and please don't watch videos about it. Don't watch. I mean, you can afterwards, I guess, but
unless
read
it's my
the
video.
Read the text for yourself. Read the text for yourself and make your own conclusions about it. We've had this call for a really long time. Just some guy.
Story where.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, what?
What were you
You
asking?
mean the story where they saw him lying there naked and they raped him?
Where they got him drunk. Yes, that story where they got him drunk and
yeah, his daughters. They were the context is they are escaping. Right, Sodom and Gomorrah is under fire, and they're hiding away, and the daughters get their father drunk and have sex with him
to populate the earth. They thought
populate the earth.
Anything wrong though? That's them.
Oh, you're telling me for real that Lot was just too drunk to know that was his daughter in the cave with him? I don't buy it. I'm sorry, I ain't gonna believe it, man. Anybody tells me they're too drunk, I just you know what you're doing. No way he didn't recognize his own daughters. Just some guy.
Yeah. Just some guy. We do gotta let you go here, okay? Because we've been having this conversation for a long time. I've given you a lot of extra time because you've had a lot of questions, and I appreciate you asking us questions. We try to give you some honest answers. What I hope the takeaway from this is that you don't use the excuse that atheists don't have morality anymore, if anything.
Please.
If that's my one takeaway. You can say maybe I disagree with their sense of morality. Maybe you don't think our sense of morality is right. Maybe you don't think the foundation of it is correct. But please don't ever say we don't have a sense of morality in any sense, because we do. Yes, it is based on human emotions many times. Sometimes some of us try to not or minimize human emotions, but regardless of the fact, it is in our interests, right? So yeah, we do care about that, but whether it's better or not than Christianity's morality, that's up for you to decide. I can't make that decision for you, right? Anyway,
you go live.
We're live every week, 7 p.m. Central Time in America. Yeah. On Fridays.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Feel free to watch some older episodes of the show and maybe call again sometime if you like. But again, for now, I am going to let you go. Thank you for calling and having that conversation with us. Michael, what'd you think?
That was fun. It was an interesting. My favorite thing is when the guests ask me questions, because they're really curious about what I believe and why. Because sometimes, like I went on a trip to San Jose, I spoke at a church, and afterwards they wanted to take me out to dinner, they wanted to buy me beer, they wanted to know everything about me, my history and everything. So I find that a lot. They're as interested in what I believe as much as I'm interested in what they believe.
Yeah, it's true. And I want to have you involved in this conversation. It's hard when they're asking direct questions back to me, and then it's a back and forth and stuff. And
you're fine. I just jump in when I can.
I just want to be able for us to share, because that's really important. I don't know how old just some guy is. Sounds like they're a pretty young person, right? I think we may be one of the first long conversations they've ever had with someone of our belief system, right? And that's pretty important because we're doing representation work there, right? I want to make sure we're both in that conversation.